What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and I'm no fan of Facebook, but it sure seems pretty curious how obsessed mainstream media is, legacy media, really, with trying to take them down. Facebook is far more popular than most people like to admit, even though many people I speak to often will say that, I haven't used Facebook in forever, and then I'll see them posting on there nearly daily. People still use it. There's a wide variety of reasons to do so, stay in touch with family or whatever. I've never really been a part of like Facebook groups or anything else that Facebook does, but I think by and large, it's still extraordinarily popular worldwide. And mainstream media really dislikes it, I think mostly because of how effectively information can spread on it that they don't like. Now, sometimes it's actual misinformation or bad, hurtful stuff. And I think that I would be willing to have a conversation about, flagging that kind of stuff. But really what mainstream media doesn't like about Facebook is that it's still a conservative safe haven, as they might call it. There are a lot of older people on there who tend to skew conservative. And I think that's one of the biggest things, biggest motivating factors for them to be continually going after them. Now, today we had, quote, the Facebook papers leak, which is described as the papers are redacted versions of disclosures made by whistleblower Frances Haugen to the SEC, who was a plant, in my opinion, alleging Facebook was prioritizing profits over safety and hiding its own research from investors and the public. The AP joined with 16 other American news organizations who worked together to gain access to the thousands of pages of internal company documents. Each member of the consortium pursued its own independent reporting. What this was a hit job by mainstream media, and it has had zero effect. Among the stories published by the AP, our journalists are reporting on the conflict between profit and people within Facebook and maids being bought and traded on the sites in the Mideast. Now, one of those things I think is important. One of those things is something I would expect Facebook to care about. Again, it's difficult to know what they're defining as misinformation. I don't care. Imagine being shocked or surprised that Facebook cares about profits above all else. It's a corporation, not a human being. I don't buy this like emotional plea, like think of the people. Facebook needs Facebook literally has no responsibility, in my opinion, to be policing information, looking out for misinformation or this or that. I don't believe they have any. I don't believe Facebook has any responsibility to do that. But, maybe we disagree on that. There's been a report where they report on the threat Facebook once faced of being removed from Apple's app over maids being bought and traded on its websites. The launch of hashtag Facebook Papers follows similar reporting by the Wall Street Journal, as well as this Democratic plant's appearance on 60 Minutes and her October 5th Capitol Hill testimony before the U.S. Senate subcommittee. Make no mistake, it is my opinion that this quote-unquote whistleblower is no whistleblower at all. None. I believe that she is using this for political clout and profit. We've seen this by her giant GoFundMe asking for $100,000. I believe that she's long been a political ideologue who was always looking to make a name for herself. Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen gives evidence to the British Parliament about online harm. I'm sure the Brits will totally use this information normally and not to censor more speech. The Facebook papers, dozens of stories based on leaked whistleblower documents just dropped. Over a dozen news organizations reviewed Facebook documents leaked by the whistleblower. Don't care. She's a loser. The outlets published a flurry of reports on Monday based on those documents known as the Facebook papers. Topics range from Facebook's fading popularity with teens to failures in addressing hate speech. Hate speech is not a real thing. It is a word that pro-censorship weirdos use to justify their censorship. A consortium, oh, it's a fancy word for hacks, of 17 news organizations wrote, okay, Bloomberg and The Verge reported on internal company documents appearing to show that Facebook has been losing traction with teen users and desperately trying to recapture the market. I don't think I need an internal Facebook report to know that. I know that that's true here on YouTube. My audience skews much older than I expected it to. I don't think there are really, I mean, there are young users here on YouTube, but not like there used to be. They're all on, in terms of creators too, they're on the gram, they're on TikTok and Snapchat. They're not on YouTube. I don't need a report to tell me that. I have my own analytics to say that. The Financial Times reported that Facebook employees urged management to not make moderation exceptions for politicians and celebrities. I would agree with that. The New York Times reported that internal documents appearing to show how the company grappled with whether or not to get rid of the like and share buttons. Don't care about that. Washington Post cited 3 sources who said Mark Zuckerberg personally signed off on censorship demands from the Vietnamese government. That's an interesting story, I would say. Politico reported on Facebook's documents appearing to show the company's research on its market dominance. Don't care about that. The AP reported on Facebook documents appearing to show how its lack of language-specific moderation stops it from properly addressing moderation issues, including Terry's and hate speech. Again, hate speech is not a thing. NBC reported on internal documents, debates, and apparent disillusionment over whether the company has done enough to counter hate speech and misinformation. So it seems like, and again, misinformation can genuinely be misinformation, but it can also be just information we don't like. Information that's inconvenient. The Atlantic reported on the company gave fewer moderation resources to markets outside of the U.S. Wired reported on, Arabic dialects, being a loophole. CNN reported, I'm sure, about something Trump, and it is the January 6th event. I'm not calling it an insurrection. That's not what it was, in my opinion. Here we have, this is a big deal for her. Somewhere she got convinced that she was going to be a big player out there and that she was going to get she was going to get famous and everyone's going to love her. She's just a pawn. She's just a pawn of the Democrats and mainstream media to help, because they're both in the interest of restricting the free flow of information, in my opinion. Now, I do agree that there is information that can be harmful. Medical misinformation, for example, that, could have people doing things that are, harmful to themselves. But the problem is my definition of that is like actual misinformation, and their definition of that is somebody just asking questions about being hesitant about things. That's the problem I have. I don't necessarily have a problem with monitoring somebody saying like, hey, you should, I found this, if you eat dirt, it helps your immune system or something like that. Like, I don't even care about that stuff being flagged. But what I do have a problem with is, asking questions and sharing honest opinions. That suddenly is not allowed on these platforms, because that's really what this is about. They recognize that a place like Facebook is difficult to control, and that's why they seek to control Facebook. Facebook employees say history will not judge us kindly. Facebook employees rip Zuckerberg in leaked messages. All these are like weirdo political people. Like, imagine, maybe this is just like a bygone era thing, but like kind of where I'm from, you just work your job. You just do your job and you get on with your day. And all this, even now, after this huge coordinated thing, Facebook stock went up. It was completely pointless. Did nothing. It did nothing. Of course they chose growth over safety. It's not their responsibility. Now you're talking about, a car manufacturer knowingly making a car that's, got a steering wheel that pops off. Okay, we can talk about that. But what these people really want is, there are some who would say, well, anybody right of center needs to be strictly monitored because they might say something I don't like. These people are never talking about restricting the speech of, the super soilgers or any of the people that organized the Summer of Love. No, they're talking about controlling conservatives. Let's be honest. And that's the really pathetic part about that. It's such a thin veneer of them pretending that this is about safety when we all know exactly what this is about. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm happy that this has done absolutely epically nothing to hurt Facebook. And we'll talk to you again real soon.